Hello and welcome back to my channel. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. Let's begin. Chapter 1, Dive. We stand in awe of what cannot be understood. Ichigo Kurosaki, seemingly normal 15-year-old youth, with bright orange hair, sat in his room, staring at the ceiling. He closed his eyes and balled his fists. What I would do to be normal, he says aloud, to no one. Kurosaki Ichigo can see spirits, and this is something that he hates about him. Well, to be more specific, Ichigo hates a lot of things about himself, but this one is the one that hurts the most. He never asked to see spirits, but here they are. He also never asked his mother to die prematurely, but that's another issue. Groaning, Ichigo stuffed a pillow over his face. Those feelings again, he said, muffled by the pillow. That's another thing that he hated. How every thought would drift back to her. Maybe I need a girlfriend, he said, jokingly, tossing the pillow away. He was quite aware of his delinquent status, from the fact that he carried bright orange hair, giving the appearance that he bleached his hair, and he loved it. School was less of a hassle when no one was on your back. His small group of friends aside, not many dared to speak to the fearsome and brutal Kurosaki. Putting on his headphones, he paused. He heard a groan. He narrowed his eyes, shifted the headphones onto his neck, and looked out the window, to see a person, crawling across the street, bleeding out. Ichigo chuckled at the sight. "Hey," he shouted, "what's going on?" The person in the black ignored him. "You can hear me," Ichigo shouted. The girl looked around, confused. "If you are going to die, can it please not be in front of my house?" In advance, the girl looked up into the window, bewildered. "Don't give me that shocked look. What will my sisters think, traumatized by a bloody corpse in our front yard?" You can see me," she said, shocked. Ichigo rose an eyebrow, then snapped his fingers. "Ah, so you are a spirit," he said, calmly, "I see. Well, what's going on? Can you help me?" she groaned. Ichigo tilted his head. "And get blood over my clothes?" Ichigo said, flatly, "I'll rather not." The girl's purple eyes widened in shock, prompting a chuckle from the orange-haired man. "I'm kidding. I'll be down there in a sec," he said, smirking, "but seriously, don't bleed on me. Do not think for a second that I won't drop you back onto the pavement." Looking into the TV screen, with a half-awake, bored expression, Kurosaki Karen, younger sister of Kurosaki Ichigo, sat, when her brother swept past her, zipping up his thin jacket. She rose an eyebrow. "Where are you going, this late at night?" she asked. Ichigo looked back at her, with a stoic face. "Aren't you supposed to be in bed?" he asked, checking the clock, revealing that it was nearly 11 o'clock. Karen glared at him. "Don't change the subject, Ichigo," she snapped back. "Ni-san," he said, not looking at her. "Ichigo," she said. "Go to bed." "Yuzu is taking a bath," she suddenly said. "I'm allowed to stay up as long as she is, right?" What a childish game she was playing at. "Fine," he said, scooping up his keys, "I'm going out. Be back in a second." And with that, Ichigo left Karen, confused. The bleeding lady crawled quite a distance, but in the end, she simply ran out of steam. Ichigo could have just left her, to die, and wither away, back to the pointless, non-existent life she used to live, but that would be mean. And apparently, Kurosaki Ichigo isn't mean. Or at least that's what Inoue thought. One is better than zero, eh? "You better be grateful," Ichigo said, flatly to the girl, who merely rolled onto her back. "I don't help random strangers." "Thank you," she whispered, exhausted, "I'll be better soon." Ichigo then cracked his fingers and prepared to lift the girl. "Up we go," he said, clutching a fistful of hair. The girl cried out in agony. "What the hell are you doing?" she screamed. Ichigo tilted his head away from her. "How rude," he said, "is this how you show your gratitude? Stop this. It hurts." "Well, on the bright side, you are probably the lightest 12-year-old boy I have ever picked up, Ichigo said, with a grin. I'm not 12. Or a boy. Sorry. What I meant to say was that you are the lightest 11-year-old girl that I have ever picked up. The girl squirmed in his grasp, but to no avail. Then time seemed to stop, as a roar was heard. Oh no, she said, timidly, we have to leave. Is this what hurt you? Ichigo said, lifting the girl to his eye level. The girl nodded to the best of her ability. All right, he said, smiling, let's see this thing. The girl's eyes widened. Are you crazy, she said, you can't fight the hollow. You don't have any powers. A street lamp was tossed 20 feet behind the two, and a beast with 4 legs appeared, wearing a bone mask. The yellow eyes, illuminated in the darkness. Ichigo rose an eyebrow. Holy shit, this thing is ugly, he said, dropping the girl in black. She connected with the pavement, with a solid thud. Hey, she shouted. Oops, Ichigo said, feigning care, you slipped right out of my grasp. The hollow roared again and fired a thin beam, which Ichigo dodged, by tilting his head, no expression of fear on his face. Bakudo number 1. Sigh, the girl shouted, and the hollow froze. What's going on, it screeched. It speaks. Ichigo shouted, excitedly. The girl looked at the orange-haired youth. Well, I'll guess this is where we part ways, Ichigo said, nice meeting you, I guess. Wait, the girl shouted, the hollow won't just kill me. It'll kill you, and your entire family. DMN straight I will, the beast roared, free me. Ichigo turned back around. And what do I have to do, he asked, annoyed. The girl clutched her sword, then slid it over to him. My sword, she said, unsteady, just unsheath it and impale it into your heart. Goodbye, Ichigo said, walking away. Please. Ichigo sighed, then walked back to the sword. Fine that if I die, I will find you, and I will make your life a living hell, he said, bending over to pick up the sword. With no regard to the sheath, he flicked the sword out, aimed it at his heart, and plunged it deep. Then came an explosion. The hollow laughed, then erupted from his trap. Foolish Shinigami, the hollow shouted, cackling in laughter, now you will die by my hand. With great force, the hollow threw his claws at the girl. And felt it stop. Ichigo rejected the attack, without putting up a guard himself. Then he jumped up to the beast, and swung his massive blade, cleaving the hollow's head in half. Then he started to laugh. So someone trained to do this couldn't beat this thing that I felled in one great swing of my sword, he said, darkly, maybe I should have let you die. The girl's eyes were wide, in shock. His Zanpakuto is massive, she thought, bewildered, what the hell is this boy? Now, where's my body? I want to go to sleep. A young, bright, and beautiful girl wakes up, with waist-length auburn hair on an uneventful Wednesday morning, with plenty of vigor, excited on what this new day could hold. Unfortunate for her, she also awoke 30 minutes late and was in danger of being late. Oh no, she cried, throwing on her uniform, and putting a piece of bread in the toaster. She had a great breakfast, planned out and everything. And what's worst is that now, she would have to replace her beloved alarm clock. It was just one of those mornings, in the household of Inoue Orihime. It was even pure luck or pure awesome, but Ichigo knew that he was gifted. The hollow raped and pillaged several houses and businesses, but the Kurosaki household was completely untouched. Great. Ichigo said, sitting up in his bed when his door burst open. Ichigo, his father cried, leaping into the room. With narrowed eyes, Ichigo jumped out of his bed and repealed the attack. No cell, Ichigo said, in English, before throwing his father into a wall. Good job son. Kurosaki Ishin said, flashing the thumbs up sign, you gotten better. One day, you may even be able to challenge for the head of the Kurosaki family. No thanks, Ichigo said, grabbing his school uniform, I'll rather be sane. Ichi and I, Karen said, breakfast is done. Hurry up with the bathroom. Don't rush me, Karen, he said, you know that won't end well. Karen rolled her eyes and walked down the stairs. Ichigo smiled at his early morning victory. God, today is going to be a good day. Oni-san, what kind of sauce do you want for your eggs and rice? Kurosaki Yuzu asked, holding a bottle of Worcestershire and soy sauce up. Ichigo pointed toward the soy sauce, and Yuzu placed it on the table. Ichigo spun his chopsticks and dug in. He felt as if the day was going to take a sharp turn toward the worse, but that did not bother him. Thank you for the meal, Yuzu, Ichigo said, slinging his bag strap over his chest. Oni-san. Yuzu shouted, I'll see you after school. Ichigo smiled, opening the front door. You will. Last night will never happen again. Ichigo said to himself. Looking at the deep scars in the earth, caused by the hollow attack. As strange and awesome the encounter was, the interruption cost him several hours of beautiful sleep, and that was bad. Of course, the female spirit that was injured disappeared pretty much when the hollow was killed, but that was probably for the best, seeing that she was pretty useless. Where she went, what does it matter to him? He would never see her again, anyway. Ichigo. You gotta go with me. Asano Kigo, one of Ichigo's best friends, shouted, you haven't been much time with me or Ms. Wiro. I haven't been spending that much time with you because I have a job, Ichigo said, taking a sip out of his can of coffee. Not today. Kigo retorted. How do you know? You told us a couple of days ago. Ichigo eyes twitched. I'll think about it. That's what you said last time. Ichigo sat back, defeated, if nothing else comes up, I'll hang out with you. Kigo smiled and pumped his fist in celebration. Kojima Mizuiro, the other half of the party that followed Ichigo around, took a chair and snapped his cell phone shut. Morning, Ichigo, he said. Ichigo grunted as a replied. I see you're in a cheery mood, Mizuiro said. Ichigo grunted again. I'm always in a cheery mood. Can't you tell? No, I can't. Ah. Ichigo sighed. Mizuiro chuckled. I heard we have a new student today, he said. I hope it's a girl. Kigo shouted. Ichigo rose his eyes. Arisawa Tatsuki walked into the classroom, and Ichigo turned his head. Hello Arisawa, he said, where's your little friend? Tatsuki glared at him. She didn't swing by, she said, she'll be here a little late. As if on a waiting call, Inoue Orihime burst through the door, breathing heavily. Looks who's a little late, Ichigo said, with a smirk. Orihime snapped back and looked at Ichigo. Sorry Kurosaki-kun, she squeaked. Ichigo chuckled. First, I'm not the teacher, so you don't have to apologize. Second, you're not late. Oh, she muttered, looking down, and blushing furiously. Good morning, Kurosaki-kun. Good morning, Inoue. With a bell, shortly after, the class had begun, as Oki Misato, the teacher, walks in, and snapped her black notebook against her desk. Good morning, class, she said, excitedly, today, we have a new student. Yay, Ichigo said, flatly. Oki-sensei ignored the remark, sliding open the door to allow her in. Ichigo looked up, and groaned internally, as she wrote her name on the chalkboard. Hello, she said, brightly, my name is Kuchiki Rukia, and I'm pleased to be joining your class. Murmurs of "Tuz" and "Dhs" were heard, from the various male populace of the classroom. Ichigo sat back in his chair. Okay, then, Oki-sensei said, you can sit at the desk next to our rude orange friend. Ichigo shifted his eyes, opened his mouth, and prepared to offer a simple rebuttal that Rukia could not sit next to him because there was already a student sitting there before he decided to do something he hadn't done before since the school year began. He decided to look to the seat to the right of him. And look at that, no one presided in the seat. Ichigo blinked. How did I not notice that before, he asked himself. Rukia, with a bright smile, sat down and turned to the orange-haired young man. Hello, she said, what's your name? Ichigo narrowed his eyes. My name is Oda Nobukatsu, son of Oda Nobunaga, he said, drily. Rukia blinked. Ichigo noticed the confusion in her eyes and smiled. Oh, I'm so sorry, he said, with false enthusiasm, I get so nervous around new students. My actual name is Ryujin Shukyaku. My name is so unbelievable, that I don't like sharing it. What are you talking about? Rukia asked, glaring at him. Ichigo. Are you harassing our new student? Oki-sensei shouted, getting the attention of the boy. No, I'm not doing anything wrong. Ichigo said, with a small smirk on his face. Oki-sensei glared at him. You're doing the name thing again, she said, Rukia, his name is Kurosaki Ichigo. And this is why you don't have a boyfriend, sensei. Ichigo said, flatly. Oki-sensei slammed her fist into her desk. And how do you know that, she growled. Ichigo smirked. The signs are all there, sensei, he said, smugly, you've been rather irritable lately. Has there been something missing in your life, dot? Oki-sensei nearly burst a blood vessel. Do you want attention, or something, she said, furious. Actually, I would very much like to avoid that. Then shut up. Ichigo flashed her the O.K sign, and that was the end of that. I'm not helping you again. Ichigo said, trying, and failing, to outpace the short female. But you must. Rukia said, you have to fight the hollows. Why? He retorted. Rukia paused. You're the only one with the power to fight them. And I don't care. But then the Soul Society will become suspicious, she pleaded, her voice carrying a tone of despair. And again, I don't care. What if I told you that you could protect now only the spirits, but your friends too? Ichigo narrowed his eyes. First, I don't give a rat's but about these spirits that have made my life SCK for 15 years. Second, I'm pretty DMN confident that my friends are safe, thank you very much. Third, if you ever try that bullshit again, I will snap your neck in half. Now get out of here. You're wasting my lunch hour, he said, darkly. Rukia sighed. What about your life, she said. I already told you, my life is unimportant. What can I do to make you go ahead with this? Ichigo pondered. That I don't know, he said, what would you have me doing anyway? Rukia jumped slightly, surprised at the sudden change in Ichigo's position. You would kill hollows and train a little, she said. Ichigo shook his head. How about we cut out training? But you, okay, she said, ceding her play. She knew she couldn't win. Ichigo. Kigo shouted, practically falling down the stairs, why didn't you? I see. Ichigo rose an eyebrow. So Ichigo, already hitting on the new girl. Ms. Wiro said. Ichigo narrowed his eyes. If you think I'm attracted to girls who look like 12-year-old boys, you would be extremely mistaken, Ichigo said. Rukia's eye twitched. I do not, she shouted. Whatever you say, Ichigo said, introduce yourself to my friends, you poor homeless girl. I'm going to enjoy my lunch. Homeless, she said, shocked. Ichigo nodded. Yes. Homeless. One without a home, as they say. With one last wave, Ichigo strolled off, bento box underneath his arm, leaving the bewildered girl, with two boys asking her about her situation. You were kidding about the homeless thing, right? Rukia asked, as she threw another straight pitch, which Ichigo did not offer at. I wasn't, he said, bluntly, you don't have a home. Thus, that makes you a member of the homeless community. Why can't I stay at your house, she shouted. Ichigo narrowed his eyes. No, he said, first, where the hell are you going to sleep? Second, how is my family supposed to meet you? You can introduce me to them. Wahahaha no. Why? Then they will think that we're dating, and dating someone as unimpressive as you would hurt my own self-respect and self-value. I take great pride in my low social standing. Really? Rukia deadpanned, throwing another pitch. Still no swing came from Ichigo. Nah. But honestly, it's not worth it. Then sneak me in. Then you won't have to introduce me to your family. Ichigo paused, then smiled. You hussy, he said, you just want my body. I bet that monster wasn't even real. Rukia blinked. What? She quickly tried to divert the conversation away, with another pitch, but Ichigo was not buying it. Admit it, he said, no need to be shy. I won't judge you that badly. Why won't you swing that bat? Rukia cried. Because I don't know what I should be doing. Swing at the hollow heads. Sounds complicated. Is there a way to tell the difference? Yes, actually, she said, with a bright smile, on the ball, there are faces and there are other body parts. You want to hit the faces, okay. Ichigo narrowed his eyes, examined both of the drawings, then looked back up at Rukia. They're both identical, he said, flatly. What? No, they are not. Yes, they are. Quit being blind. Kurosaki-kun, a soft, peaceful voice rang from behind the orange-haired young man. Inoue, what's up? Ichigo said, turning to face the young woman. Oh, I was just coming back from the grocery store, and I was just surprised to see you, she said, I didn't know you come to this park. I don't, he said, but this brat had to go all the way out here. Orihime stood on her toes, and saw Rukia, standing. Oh, Kuchiki-san, she said, brightly. For an instant, Rukia forgot where she was, and blurted out an uncouth, who are you? Ichigo glared at the shorter female. Inoue Orihime. From our class, Kuchiki, he said, flatly. Rukia perked up. Oh, I almost didn't recognize you, Rukia said, sugaring up her tone, I'm honored to meet you. So am I, Orihime said, nervously. Ichigo rolled his eyes. Then he noticed the bandaged, wrapped tightly around her shoulder. So what's up with the arm? Ichigo asked. Orihime perked up. Oh, I was just hit by a car last night, she said, happily. Ichigo tilted his head, slightly. Really, he said, that seems a little serious. Don't you think you need medical attention? Oh, I'm fine, she said, it didn't hurt that much in school today. Well, that's good. He noticed the bruise on her leg. Then he smirked. My, that is one gnarly gash on your leg, Inoue, Ichigo said, coming to a knee, are you sure that you don't need medical attention? No, I'm fine, she said, blush intensifying, it probably happened last night. It doesn't hurt that much. Ichigo took a firm grasp of the leg, provoking a shrill gasp, and the raising of a Rukia's eyebrow. Are you sure? Even in my lack of medical knowledge, I can see that this is a serious injury. Are you sure that you don't need to go see my dad? I probably couldn't afford it, she squealed, hiding behind her hands. It would be on the house. I'm sure, Kurosaki-kun. Upon noticing that her face was as red as a tomato, Ichigo decided that his little game was over, and released his grip. Okay, Inoue, he said, if you say so. Inoue gathered her groceries, clumsily, and bowed slightly. I'll see you tomorrow, she said, trying to keep her mind from dancing around. Do you want me to walk you home? Why you don't have tea to bother? It's not a bother. Ichigo looked back at Rukia, who was surprisingly quiet, it's no problem. Let me walk you home. Oh, it's fine. Orihime stammered, trying to calm. Okay, see you tomorrow. And goodbye, Kuchiki-san. Oh, thank you for your company. Rukia said, sweetly. And with that, Orihime took her departure. Ichigo sighed. It seems like she has a new injury every day, he said, maybe she should be the one living in a clinic. Rukia grinned. You like her, she said, poking Ichigo in the neck. What? Someone has a little crush on the classroom beauty. Don't lie to me, she said, walking away from Ichigo. I don't have a crush on Inoue, he said. Sure you do, playing touchy-feely with her. You perv. I can't believe you. Ichigo smiled. While I can admit that I was a little personal with the contact, I can guarantee that I don't have a crush on Inoue. Well, do you at least find her attractive? Kuchiki, there is not a man on this earth that will deny Inoue's beauty, he said, as his watch started beeping. And, look at that, it's time for me to grace you with my exit. Where do you think that you're going? None of your business. My friends have just gotten out of cram school, so I'm due to hanging out with them. I thought you didn't want to. I also didn't want to hang out with you, and look where we're at now. Rukia glared at him, which Ichigo laughed at. When you pout, you look like a 4-year-old, he said. You still have to train. And don't you have any other insults? Yeah, about that, your method of training is stupid your training, Ichigo said, flipping his bat, grabbing his backpack, and walking away. Come back here. Rukia shouted. Ichigo replied by putting on his headphones. Rukia stomped the ground, to no avail. In actuality, hanging out with Kigo and Mizuiro wasn't that bad. In fact, he really didn't mind doing so. But, all of those wasted study hours. Ichigo sighed, drying his hair, before putting on a fresh t-shirt. He felt a tremor, quaking in the halls of his mind. Probably nothing, he said, before opening the door, only to see his sister, Yuzu, standing. Hey Yuzu, he said, you can have the bathroom now if that's what you want. Yuzu gasped. You already took your bath, she shouted. Ichigo nodded. I wanted to take one with you, she shouted. Ichigo sighed. Yuzu, you're 11. You can take baths by yourself, Ichigo retorted. But we haven't spent that much time together. But a bath together? Yuzu, as a high schooler, you don't know how unbelievably creepy it is to take baths with you younger siblings. But we're siblings. It doesn't matter. Ichigo face-bombed a sigh. Tomorrow, we'll do something, Ichigo said, just you and me. But not a bath, okay? Yuzu's face lit up. Really? She squealed. Ichigo, again, nodded. Okay, she exclaimed, you better not forget. She then ran off, into her and her sister's room. Ichigo sighed and walked up to his room. Out of all the negatives he had, chalked up on his big old board of Ichigo failures, his relationship with his sisters was not one. Kinda. They were close. Too close. Ichigo tried to push them away, but they came back, clinging to his hip, and there was not anything Ichigo could do about it. This isn't going to work, he said. He knew that he was going to end up taking a bath with Yuzu eventually, and he dreaded it, but that was that. And he was going to have to choke up to the ladle, and accept that. God, I am such a pushover, he said, sweeping his hand through his hair, I guess I can get my clothes out before I go to bed. Ichigo walked over to his closet, grabbed the handle, and pulled it open. And when the door opened, his face fell into a deep, dark frown. What the F are you doing in my closet? He asked, a surprised Rukia, decked out in a pair of pajamas. More specifically, Yuzu's pajamas. First, stealing my closet. Now, stealing my sister's clothes. How far will you go? We have to remain close together, Rukia said, if a hollow attacks, I need to be here, so you can kill it. Ichigo blinked. I'm going to ask again, this time much slower, so you can hear me. What? The F-R you doing in my closet? Rukia blanched. What else dash? Come here. Ichigo said as he opened his window. Why? You're leaving. Now. And this is the best way out, he said, don't worry. I'll let you keep the clothes. I can't leave. Who's going to make sure you attend your duties? I don't know, and I really don't care. You got to go. As soon as he finished, Rukia's cell phone blared loudly, attracting the attention of the room. Before Rukia got the chance to check it, Ichigo snatched the phone out of her hand, and looked at the screen. Then he narrowed his eyes. Hurry up, he growled, tossing her phone back. Rukia fumbled the catch-up, trying to put her fingerless glove on. Wait up. What's the worry anyway? Rukia asked. Just do it. Ichigo shouted back, deeply. Oh, what a night it had turned out to be. Are you stupid? Tatsuki shouted at her busty friend, you had him all wrapped up, and you let him go. How rude, Urahara said, I'm not stupid. And besides, he was with Kuchiki-san. More reason to take him. But that would have been rude to Kuchiki-san. Urahara whined. Tatsuki sighed. Do you even know why he was with her? She asked. Urahara shook her head. I heard that Kuchiki-san was homeless. Do you think he was trying to lift her spirits? Tatsuki narrowed her eyes. I don't know where you get this impression of Ichigo from, she said, the Ichigo I know would never do such a thing. So you say. So I know. A loud cry was heard from outside the tiny apartment. What was that? Tatsuki said, looking out the window. Urahara shrugged. Tatsuki shook her head. Maybe it's time for you find a better neighborhood. Tatsuki suggested. Urahara gasped. But I can't leave. This is me and Sora's apartment, she said, I don't think he'd like it if I just moved away. Urahara, she said, before a loud crash was heard, and Urahara's body slammed into the ground. Do you even know where you're going? Rukia shouted. Ichigo ignored, kicking off another rooftop. Why are you in such a hurry? Ichigo dipped down onto a street and took Rukia off of his back. Why are we here? She asked, we're not close. Ichigo nodded, before taking off into a sprint. Rukia's eyes widened. Wait. Get back here. Ichigo, again, ignored her and turned the corner. Finally, he said, holding a small smirk. Urahara. Tatsuki cried, before finding herself flying into a wall. Urahara opened, slightly, only to find Tatsuki unconscious against a wall. Herself, sitting on another wall, with a chain protruding from her chest, connecting herself to a bloody body on the ground, and a monster, hovering over her. Now Urahara, it is time for you to return to me, the beast shouted, and Urahara looked up. How do you know my name? She asked. The monster narrowed its beady red eyes and growled. Of course, you would have forgotten about me, it said, drawing back its large claws, but we'll be together. We'll be together forever. Urahara closed her eyes, in fear of what to come. She expected it to be quick, but the pain she dreaded never came. Instead, the sound of metal ringing filled her ears, as she reluctantly opened her eyes, and saw Ichigo, standing over her, dressed in a pure black kimono. Kurosaki-kun, she said, quietly. Ichigo deflected the claws, then formed his stance. If you want to hurt Inoue, he said, then you are going to have to go through me. Kurosaki-kun, she said, much loudly this time, oh, I wonder if this is a dream, how did you get here? What's with the sword? Ichigo looked back at her before his eyes widened. He, the hollow cackled, Kurosaki. You pest. If you didn't exist, she would have never forgotten me. Ichigo looked at Urahara, who was against the wall, and the bloody figure, beside the hollow's tail, and figure that they were the same. Then he looked at the hollow's face. Sora. Urahara whimpered. The hollow laughed again. So, you remembered, the hollow screamed, well it's too late. He swiped his large hand at her, but Ichigo stabbed his sword through his wrist, and with mighty force, pulled the entire arm off. The hollow roared in agony. You will not lay a single finger on Inoue, he said, gravely, before jumping into the air. The hollow screamed, before firing a Siro, which, despite being for Ichigo, was much more likely to harm Tatsuki. Tatsuki! Ichigo shouted, before kicking off of the ceiling, and landing in front of Tatsuki, sword in a defensive position. Despite this, he could deflect the entire attack, and the apartment wall exploded. What just happened? A resident shouted, in awe, before finding himself a victim of Rukia's memory Chikan. That should fix that, she said, when Ichigo landed beside her, holding Tatsuki. UBSTRD. Rukia shouted, you just left me. You know how long of a walk that was. Ichigo narrowed his eyes, and placed Tatsuki on the concrete, softly. He then, wordlessly, jumped back into the ruined apartment. Rukia sighed. Die, the hollow shouted, slashing at Inoue, when Ichigo interrupted his attack, and offered at his mask. He caught a bit of it, accepted it, and pulled out, revealing a chunk of his face. Orihime gasped, in horror. Kurosaki, the hollow cried, just die. He fired another Siro, this one clipping with Ichigo shouted, sending him plummeting to the ground. Kurosaki-kun. Orihime shouted, running over to him. Ichigo snapped his head up, and shouted, don't. Too late, as Orihime nearly found herself crushed by the tail of the snake-like hollow. She quickly turned, only to find herself taken in the grasp of the beast. Kurosaki-kun. Orihime called out, feeling herself losing the ability to breathe. Why do you cry out for him? The hollow asked. Let her go. Ichigo shouted, slashing him across the chest. The hollow roared, and slapped Ichigo, with his tail, sending him into the door. The hollow prepared another Siro when Ichigo snapped up and rushed in. Orihime shut her eyes when the Siro was fired, and another explosion filled the room. When Orihime opened her eyes, and saw Ichigo, and his sword plunged into the hollow's face. The mask shattered, and Inoue Sora, her dear brother, wide-eyed. Sora, she said, softly, feeling the grasp lessen. Orihime that I'm sorry, he said, I just wanted to be remembered. Orihime started to tear up. Brother that I never forgot about you, she said, I couldn't that I would never. But you no longer prayed for me, he shouted, everything revolved school or your friends, and when you met Kurosaki. You forgot about me. You chose Kurosaki over your brother. I never replaced you that I thought you would be happy, hearing about how good I've been doing that I'm sorry brother. Sora's eyes widened, as Orihime slipped out of his grasp, and into Ichigo's, who was waiting for her to fall. Kurosaki-kun, she said, tired, made me happy, like you did that he filled a gap in my heart, but never replaced you, brother that I love you. Fully exhausted, she fell asleep in Ichigo's arms. Ichigo! Rukia shouted, bursting through the broken door. Ichigo turned to her and motioned toward the bloody corpse. Oh, she gasped, that I can fix this. Can you? Sora gasped. Rukia nodded. Yep. Just might take a while, she said, walking over to Ichigo, as long as her chain of fate is connected to her body, she can be revived. Ichigo nodded, and gently placed her body on the floor. Kurosaki Ichigo. Sora said, feeling weaker, can I ask you to do something? A last wish? Ichigo nodded. Sora closed his eyes and balled his remaining fist. I entrust Orihime to you, he said, I took her from her parents because they were bad people, unspeakable, their crimes were. I wanted to keep her safe, protect her from every and any threat, her hairpins, my last gift to her, my last measure of protection, you must keep her safe, Kurosaki. You must. Ichigo looked down and smiled. You should be glad, he said, looking back into the eyes of the hollow, I already planned on protecting her from anything and everything. There is no need to worry. Sora smiled, as he started to fade away. Then, I am. Silence. Walking back to his humble home, Ichigo stepped, as if nothing would move him. Rukia walked behind him, as silent as he was. If you were wondering, I didn't protect her, because I have a crush on her, Ichigo said. Inoue is a difficult story. I met her in the most unfortunate situation possible. Her brother was killed in a car accident. She was the one who carried his body into the clinic. Even though we tried everything, he died before the ambulance arrived. I begged my father to let me go to his funeral. I needed to be there, that I knew I could do anything to ease her, but I felt that as someone who went through a similar experience, I could help her. I did my best, but she pushed me away. She never wanted to see me again. All I did was remind her of that day. I eventually started the healing process. But even that was short-lived. I did my best, like I always try. Even though I knew she was friends with Tatsuki, I was too afraid to see her again. I was afraid that she would hate me. I was afraid that she would reject me again. But in high school, when I saw her, I was swallowed in anger. She was happy. She was giggling to some joke or something that I couldn't believe it. How could she be happy after the terrible events in her life? But my anger was misguided, that I wasn't angry at her. I was angry at myself. I was bitter. I was depressed. I hated everything. I was angry. I needed someone to be angry at. But why Inoue? She was like me. We both lost a family member. We both were alone. Yet, she was happy, and I was not. What had I done wrong? I needed to keep her off my path. I needed to save her. I needed to protect. I can't let her fall like I had. I just can't. Kurosaki. Rukia said. Ichigo shook his head. Can we just walk? He said. I really don't feel like talking anymore. Oh, what happened to your apartment, my sweet Haim-chan? Honsho Chizuru shouted, hugging the auburn-haired girl tightly. Orihime shrugged. I heard it was a gas explosion. That would probably explain my dream, she said. And what was that about? Tatsuki asked as she took a seat next to her. Oh, it was a little long, but you were in it. Good morning, Inoue, Ichigo said, walking behind Tatsuki. Was I in your dream? Inoue blushed. Ah, good morning Kurosaki-kun, she said. I don't remember. Ichigo smiled. Well, it would be a great honor to be in your dreams, he said. Orihime's blush deepened. Chapter 3, Bull in the Heather. I hate my boss. Ichigo complained, sitting on the roof of the school. He had a lunch with him, but he wasn't eating it. He was way too indifferent on his current situation to eat. What's up, Ichigo? Kigo shouted, running up to the roof. Ichigo grimaced, aware that his time to reflect was now over. He gave a small wave, then opened his lunchbox. Kigo looked around. Hey, where's Kuchiki-san? He asked. Ichigo shrugged, as he twisted the cap off of his lukewarm chocolate drink. I'm not her keeper, Ichigo said, and why would she be up here? Because I invited her here. Kigo whined. Ichigo glared at his annoying friend. Wait, you invited Kuchiki up here when you are terrified to speak 3 words to Inoue. More evidence. More evidence. What are you talking about? Hell Lolu companions, Rukia chirped out, interrupting the two, walking onto the roof. Ichigo groaned. What's up with you? Ms. Wiro asked. Ichigo shook his head. Nothing that concerns you 3, he said, thinking about whipping out his phone, leaving the roof, and talking to his boss in a very angry manner. Ichigo sighed and went back to eating. Why won't you talk to us? Kigo shouted. Ichigo shrugged. Yo, a large, dark-skinned man, with messy brown hair said, holding a bird. Hola, mi amigo. Ichigo said, snapping up, what's with the bird? The man looked at the cage he held, then back at his orange-haired friend. It's a cockatiel, he said, bluntly. Ichigo blinked. Chad, what's with the bird? It's Sado. Ichigo glared at his large friend. Dude, what's with the goddamn bird? Ichigo growled. This bird has had many previous owners. All of them died in pretty gruesome accidents. Ichigo nodded, hand over his mouth. Yeah, I really don't give a shit about how you got the DMN thing. Why is it here? Oh, H.IT can talk. The bird, sensing its cue, chirped out a quiet, hello. Whoa, it speaks so clearly. Kigo said, rushing up to it. Ms. Wiro and Rukia joined her. However, Rukia was looking at it with suspicion, rather than interest. Where did you find this thing? Ichigo asked. Sado shrugged. Harutoki found it. Ah, where did he find it? Ichigo now asked, mocking interest. An old apartment building. Where those murders happened last month. Kurosaki-kun, Orihime said, as Ichigo entered the classroom. Sup, he answered, nonchalantly. Orihime blushed and tightened up, as she started to rethink herself. Telling Ichigo that she remembered how he saved her from her brother the other night might have been the correct course of action, but she still had her fears. Whatever Ichigo had been doing, might be something he didn't want anyone to know about. And the fact that she remembered might make him worry about her. And she wouldn't want to raise the berry head stress levels. Ah, did you have trouble with yesterday's math homework? She asked. Ichigo smiled. Yeah, I kinda did, he answered. Did you also have trouble? Orihime responded with a nod. I was wondering if we could compare answers, she squeaked. Really? Sure. No problem, Ichigo said, reaching for his notebook. I know I feel a lot better, knowing that you also struggled. Not every day you can get help from one of the smartest girls in school. Orihime blushed as she smiled. It could wait. How likely is it that one of those things would attack her again? Ichigo. Ichigo. Rukia called out, sternly. Ichigo was walking ahead of her, with headphones on. She growled. Ichigo, she shouted, kicking him in the shin. Or attempted to. On reaction, Ichigo swept out his leg, avoiding the assault, before bringing it back, tripping Rukia. He smiled, before slinging the headphones around his neck. What do you want? He asked, still walking. The bird, Rukia answered, I believe it might be a spirit. So? We're going to have to send it to the Soul Society. Like hell we are, Ichigo said, calmly, whatever you're asking me to do can be shoved up your narrow butt, along with your other bullshit missions. But it's your duty. No, it was your duty. And you failed. Tragically. But dash. Nope. Not going to do it. Loud police sirens blared, as they drove past the two. Wow, look at that, Ichigo said, wonder what happened. You're making it seem as if it's a process, Kurosaki. You just tapped the spirit with the back of your Zanpakuto, Rukia said, ignoring his comment. Can you stop being a child for a moment? Nope. Sorry. Watch it, Ichi and I. Karen shouted, wheeling in another patient. Ichigo sidestepped, without contention. Whoa, what happened here? He asked. There was a car accident, in the intersection. Yuzu shouted. Ichigo tilted his head. So, what does that mean about our previous engagement? He asked, tone dripping in sarcasm. Another day. Another day. Ichigo, satisfied with the answer, walked into the kitchen and opened the refrigerator. Delicious sandwich, you are mine, he said, gathering the ingredients. Oni-san. I need your help. Yuzu shouted, halting Ichigo's future plans. He ducked his head into the hallway and found a little surprise. He saw Yuzu struggling to cart Sado Yasutora into the clinic. That is quite the scar, young man, Ishin said, cupping his chin. Yuzu, could you bring me more bandages? Yes, sir. Yuzu said, before scampering out of the room. Ichigo filled her spot in the room, holding a sandwich. Hola, Mexicano, he said, before taking another bite. Ishin narrowed his eyes. What are you doing? Ishin asked. Ichigo shrugged. I'm hungry. In here. Checking on my pal. I'm fine, Ichigo. Sado said, sitting up, where's Yuichi? You mean the bird? It's right here, my tall friend, Ichigo said, holding the cage up. Karen had it earlier. She wanted no part of the pest. Yuichi tilted his head. It's the bird, Ichigo, Rukia said, mashing furiously on her phone, lying on her futon. While Ichigo had agreed on some things he did not like, use of the young man's closet was strictly forbidden. Luckily, the current arrangement let Rukia stay close, and out of sight. Whatever. Tell your shitty phone to detect hollows quicker, Ichigo snapped back. Rukia growled. Stick close to me tomorrow. The hollow could attack at any moment. Whatever. And stick close to Yasutora-san. And the bird. Whatever. Chad, let's go, SA. Ichigo shouted into the empty overnight room. He peered his head inside and grimaced. Ah, sheet. Ni-san, are you going to eat? Yuzu asked, tiredly. Ichigo shook his head. Have you seen Chad? He asked. Yuzu shook her head this time. Ichigo looked around. Where's Karen? In our room. She wasn't feeling too well. Ichigo narrowed his eyes. That Fanji bird. Karen. Ichigo said, knocking on the door. Karen coughed. Ichinii, she groaned. Ichigo sighed, and opened the door. What's the matter, he said. Karen shifted in the bed. It's the bird, right? Ha, that I felt it too. The bird. He saw. Karen said, weakly. Ichigo blinked. He saw what? The bird. He saw his mother die. Karen cried, nearly throwing herself off the bed. His mother was murdered, right in front of him. He was helpless. He couldn't do anything. You have to help him. Please, Ichi and I. I'll do my best. That Fanji bird. Yuzu, I don't think I'm going to school today. Ichigo said, I don't feel so good. But Ni-san, you looked fine just a minute ago. Yuzu said. Ichigo shrugged. Must have just come down with it. I'll be in my room. Ichigo shut the door behind, and locked it, to see Rukia standing, arms crossed. Ichigo, it's time. I know. Let's go. Rukia smiled, putting on her glove. You ready to admit that I was right? Ichigo smirked, sweeping his hand through his hair. Over my dead body. Mister, you don't have to do this. Yuichi, the cockatiel, chirped. Sado shook his head. I made a promise to you, he said, and I keep my promises. The ground behind him exploded, and Sado knew it was time to go. Where are you going? Rukia shouted, finding herself falling behind. To find Chad. Duh, Ichigo said, stupid woman. How do you know you're going the right way? Rukia shouted back before her phone went off. She grabbed her phone, then glared at it. You were saying. Shut up. Mister, it's right behind us, the cockatiel squealed, terrified. Sado attempted to speed up. Yasutora-san. Rukia shouted, turning the corner. Sado perked up, confused on why she was there. Kuchiki-san, what are you? Get down, she shouted, and Sado obliged. Ichigo whizzed over his head and knocked the being giving chase back. The hollow was dark blue, with dark brown fur forming a mane around its bony mask. The hollow also had bat wings, probably used for flight. Ichigo cracked his knuckles. "Sup," Ichigo said, forming his stance. The hollow flicked his tongue. "Shinigami, why must you disturb our game?" the hollow cackled. Ichigo shrugged. I'm bored. Let's make this quick, I got to go to school." "Quick, then." The hollow grabbed something off his back, and threw it at Ichigo. "The hell?" Ichigo said, swatting the thrown object, that turned out to be a mini hollow, away with his left hand. Or attempted to. On contact, the mini burst, and leeches stuck themselves to Ichigo, who looked at his arm, with minor regret. "I probably should have just moved," he said, nonchalantly. The hollow laughed. "Rather calm, for somebody who is about to die," it shrieked. Ichigo shook his arm. "Hey buddy, cut it out," he said, "your corniness is killing me, man." The hollow flicked its tongue, and the leeches exploded. "Silence Shinigami," the hollow shouted. Ichigo chuckled. "Oh, so that just happened," he said, shaking his bloody arm. The hollow was shocked. How are you dash? Unhurt?" "Nah, explosion stung like a beach. But pain is nothing for me. You bstrd." The hollow found itself caught between a rock and a hard place. He wasn't a fighter. He was a killer. A cold, ruthless, merciless killer, but when it came to defending itself, he was completely clueless. The two Shinigami he devoured before were rookies, easy targets. They were scared easily. But the one he faced now that he had no fear. He was insane. And to just shrug off a major injury. "What's the matter?" Ichigo asked, smugly, "Sad that your silly little bombs failed." "Bombs?" If it was possible, the hollow smirked. "Die, Shinigami," he screamed, as an army of his miniatures flew from his body, at the substitute. Ichigo narrowed his eyes and jumped back, trying to avoid bomb carriers. When the coast was clear, Ichigo burst forward. "Think again," the hollow shouted, pointing at Rukia and Sado. Ichigo looked back, to find Rukia on the ground, with minis holding her down, and Chad, with leeches all over his body. The bird was trying to make him move, but the giant was not going anywhere. Ichigo narrowed his eyes. "Good one," Ichigo said, stabbing his sword into the pavement. The hollow laughed, as he prepared to flee. Ichigo smirked. "But you forgot one thing," he said. The hollow narrowed his eyes. "You forgot that I'm late for school, and I do not want to serve another detention," he said, jumping at the hollow, who was bewildered. "Leave me alone," he shouted, before flicking his tongue. The minis holding Rukia exploded, scarring her lower back and legs while Chad went up in smoke. Ichigo stopped. "I don't think that's supposed to happen," he said, before ducking a stream of leech bombs. "Die Shinigami," the hollow cried, before finding a mailbox in his mask. The beast fell onto the pavement, with a loud crash. Ichigo blinked. "Ichigo, are you alright?" Chad said, walking out of the smoke, unharmed. Ichigo blinked again. A coat of something, reminding Ichigo of liquid metal, covered Chad's right arm, tightly. Ichigo blinked thrice. "What the literal F dash," he said. Sado shrugged. "I don't know what happened," he said. The hollow cried out, prepared to shoot out more leeches. Chad hurried up, and shut him up, with a punch to the mask. And what a punch it was! Ichigo was knocked off of his feet, by the overwhelming force of the blow. The hollow's body tightened. A massive blast of wind flew down the alleyway, knocking out any loose bricks. The stiff body fell onto the pavement, dazed. "What the literal F dash, dot?" Ichigo said, sitting up. Chad walked over to him and helped him up. "Ichigo, what's up with the sword?" Chad asked. Ichigo shook his head. Another time, he answered, first, let me deal with the hollow. Ichigo, you can't kill it, Chad said, halting Ichigo. Why not? Because that thing is the key to saving Yuichi's mother. Ichigo narrowed his eyes. Chad, I don't think dash. Die, the hollow cried, preparing to spray another jet of leeches. Ichigo slashed him across his mask, further breaking the already cracked mask. A door, with skeletons as greeters, sprouted from the ground, and a light enveloped the hollow. No, the hollow shrieked, struggling. Chains stripped away the hollow's armor, only to reveal a lowly human. Yuichi's eyes burst, in horror. Rukia, what's happening? Ichigo shouted. Rukia squirmed on the ground, to get a better view. It appears that the gates of hell are opening, ready to accept another, she said. Ichigo walked backwards, away from the door. I'm not going alone, the man, who was the hollow's true persona, jumped out and grabbed Ichigo, who attempted to fight his way out of the grasp. That doesn't mean I'm going with you. Ichigo shouted as the two were being dragged into the gate. Ichigo! Chad shouted, running over to his friend. Ichigo grabbed the edges of the closing doors and began kicking his way back into the realm of the living. Not today, he grunted, pulling himself through. The doors shut loudly, and the gateway to the Dmed sank back into the ground. Ichigo fell to a knee, breathing hard. New rule, that never happens again. It doesn't talk anymore. Kigo said, looking at the bird in the cage, who was absent-mindedly observing its surroundings. Ichigo sighed. If talking to a bird is one of the highlights of your day, you might as well just kill yourself, he said, bluntly. Kigo nearly started crying. Why are you so mean to me, he whined. What do you mean? Your life is so much better than mine. Inoue-san greets you every day, in the morning. You get a warm breakfast every day. You have a job. Stop holding yourself over me. Ichigo facepalmed. First, that's not me being mean to you. That kind of thought process, however, is rather unlikable, and it needs to cease. Quickly. Second, Inoue's greeting is her choice. Maybe if you talk to her, and not ogle her, every time you see her, she might greet you in the morning. Third, make your own breakfast. You can do at least that, she that your sister nearly does everything else. Third, get a job. It's really not that hard. Lastly, stop being a baby. Let me eat my lunch. Ichigo then sat down, and pulled out a spicy rice ball, as Kigo tried to build himself up after that epic destruction of his self-value took place. Ichigo. When can we talk? Chad asked, eating a bowl of instant ramen. Ichigo bobbed his head. Around 7-ish, he answered, we'll come to your place. Chad looked up, then nodded. See you then, he said. Ichigo smiled. Alright, amigo. Chapter 4, No One Knows. The boy had it rough, Ichigo said, dressed in his Shinigami garb. He tossed his sword aside and sat on the floor. Sado gave his a teacup, which he frowned at. Dude, I don't drink tea, he said, placing the cup on the floor beside him. Rukia narrowed her eyes. Just accept the tea, she said, irritated, you're being rude. Ichigo rolled his eyes. No, Kuchiki, I'm not being rude, he said, I'm being myself. And I don't drink tea. I don't have any coffee, Sado said, sorry about the lack of drinks. It's no problem. We aren't here to drink anyway. Indeed. Yasutora-san, can you activate your powers? Rukia asked. Sado nodded and took a deep breath, as the black coating covered his right arm. Rukia cupped her chin. This is highly unusual, she said. Ichigo narrowed his eyes. Really? I thought this happened all the time. Rukia rubbed her temples. Ichigo, can you please just shut up and let me work? Whoa, someone must be on their flow. Rukia clenched her fists. Sado knew he had to intervene. Ichigo, maybe you can take it easy, he said, Kuchiki-san is here to help me. Ichigo scoffed. You guys are boring. I guess I'm just going to play on my, he said, fumbling in his human body's pocket, brand new smartphone. Just came in the mail today. He promptly sat down and fiddled with it. Is he always like this? Rukia asked. Sado nodded. But you'll get used to it. Where are we going? Ichigo asked, back in his body, focused on his phone. To my temporary home, Rukia replied. Ichigo put his hand over his mouth, trying to hold back his laughter. Rukia rose an eyebrow. My Kuchiki, Ichigo said, you never struck me as such a girl. What do you mean? But two men at once. You would have to wonder if your small frame can handle it. What? And I'm just a Japanese youth. You're asking me to stand up to a man with that Latin blood. I'm not Latin, Sado said. Still, this is a big task for me. What are you talking about? And to think, I had my bar set for a higher level, only to settle for .u. The gears started churning inside of Rukia's head and her eyes widened. You idiot, she shouted, why would you even think about that? Ichigo chuckled. So uptight, he said, with a smirk, can't you have a little bit of fun every once in a while? It's been work ever since I got these powers. That's because your job is important, idiot, Rukia snapped back. Ichigo shrugged, in indifference. The three came to a stop in front of a house, that had more in common with a country hut. Regardless of the modest appearance, the sign on the door read, Getabashi's Excellent Candy Emporium. Ichigo narrowed his eyes, as Rukia threw open the door. For a so-called emporium, the candy store was rather unimpressive. Rows upon rows of candy, and most of them were ancient. The floor creaked with tension, as if they were unfamiliar with any form of weight being pressed on it. Wow, this place. SCKS. Ichigo said, bluntly. Oh, but this is my home, a blonde, scraggy man, in a green jacket, matching green hat, and sandals said, walking into the store, holding a cane, it may not be much, but I cherish it so. Well, your house SCKS. Oh, Kurosaki-san, you're so rude, he said, opening a fan, covering his mouth. Ichigo rose an eyebrow. Rukia, mind me for asking, but what the hell are we doing here, he asked. Urahara-san, I have Yasutora-san here. I have to ask you about his abilities, she said. No need to be so formal, Kuchiki-san. Come here, you three. To the surprise of no one, the innocent candy store that it appeared to be was only a front. Underneath the store, was a wide cavern, with a painted ceiling, reminding the visitor of the sky. Rocks were piled, in unorganized rows. Alrighty then. Urahara said, Yasutora-san, prepare for combat. Sado turned his head. What? Against who? He asked. Urahara smiled, as he spun his cane, before poking Ichigo in the forehead, knocking him out of his body. The orange-haired youth scowled. You know, you could have just asked me. Sado and Ichigo stood, facing each other, about 20 yards from each other. Sado had his arm covered, rolling his shoulder, shirtless. Ichigo cracked his knuckles, and flipped his blade onto the ground. What are you doing? Rukia asked. Ichigo shook his head, bending over, and grabbing his sword by the handle. How else to do expect me to draw this massive thing? Magic, he said, sliding the blade out. Sado clenched his fist. Ready, Ichigo, he shouted. Just go. Ichigo shouted back. Sado dashed forward, deceptively quick, arm ready for an attack. Ichigo narrowed his eyes, as he spun his sword to block the punch. As the fist connected with steel, a loud, screaming bang was heard. Ichigo slid back, balance lost, digging the sword into the ground for friction. Sado, on the other hand, charged forward, arm bursting with energy. Sado punched 4, expecting Ichigo to block again. Instead, the orange-haired young man turned his body, fist veering past the substitute's body. Ichigo smiled, cleaving his massive sword into the thick skin of Sado's midsection, cutting him deeply. With a grunt, Sado retaliated with a weak jab, creating space between the two. Ichigo rolled back to his feet, before dashing back. He then started to run at Sado, in an arc. The dark-skinned male brought his fist back, ready to strike. Ichigo slid to a complete stop, before ducking in, trying to bait Sado into an attack. He didn't bite, so the two deflected blows, and leaped away. "Wow, those kung fu movies are really wrong," Ichigo said. "Under no circumstances should a fighter with a weapon lose to an unarmed one." Sado cracked his knuckles and twisted his wrists. With a heavy step, Sado dashed at Ichigo, armpit. Ichigo rolled his hips, building momentum, to pick up his blade. Sado expected this, and slapped his sword down, and delivered a heavy punch to the Shinigami. It was either the sheer pain, forcing him to squeeze his sword, or maybe he braced himself for impact. Nevertheless, it was a miracle that Ichigo did not let go of the blade, as he was sent flying across the basement. Somehow, Ichigo popped up to his feet, ready for more action. "Nice one," he shouted, "won't be fooled again, though." "That's enough." Urahara exclaimed, holding his arm out, as if he was a prophet, delivering the word to his followers, "I have seen enough." "So, what is it?" Rukia, standing beside him, "What have you found?" "Well, I have found that this is a new case," Urahara said. Rukia, having no patience for the shopkeeper's games, slugged him in the gut, doubling the old man over. "Not in the mood," she said, irritated, "give us some real news." Urahara chuckled, rubbing his gut. Okay. "I'll be nice," he said. "I see that the arm enhances your strength, plus gives you a decent-sized boost in your spiritual pressure. Despite this, that looks like that's all the arm can do." "Are you sure?" Sado asked. Urahara shrugged. "I wouldn't be right to say that. Your arm could grow in powers, and abilities. But, right now, it's as basic as spiritual powers can get." "So now what?" Ichigo said. "How do his powers get stronger?" "Work, I guess. A little luck, too." Ichigo shook his head. "I can see that you aren't the most helpful man," he said. Urahara shrugged again. "I tried my hardest," he said, in a mock-sweet tone. "Ichigo!" Ishin cried, flying through the air, "You are late for dinner." Ichigo spun out of the way and continued his trek through the house. "No counterattack," the father shouted. "Who are you, weird person, and where is my son?" Ichigo narrowed his eyes. "Dad, I have had a very long day, so can you please stop being you," he said, flatly, "please stop being yourself for tonight." Ishin blinked. "What's eating you?" he asked. "School? Job? Women?" "No to all three. Just stress. I'm going to bed." "Oni-san." Yuzu shouted from the kitchen, "Dinner was ready ages ago. Aren't you going to eat?" Ichigo shook his head. "Not hungry. Just tired." "Coming home late for dinner, feeling tired?" Ishin said, "Aha. So it is a girl." Yuzu poked her head into the room. "A girl? Who is it?" she shouted, a bit red in the face. Ichigo shook his head. "It's not a girl. It's an Oe-chan. She has grown into the fine young woman. The body of a goddess." Ishin said, cupping his chin. Ichigo kicked him in the gut. "It's not a girl. And don't talk about Inoue like that." "So it is Inoue-san." Yuzu squealed, jumping to conclusions. Ichigo facepalmed. "If I have to repeat myself one more time, I may have to hurt somebody. It's not a girl." Ichigo started walking up the steps. "Oni-san." Yuzu said, "Would you choose a girl over me family?" Ichigo looked back and smiled. Of course not, he said, walking up the rest of the stairs. The bathroom door opened, and Karen emerged, towel on her head. Ichigo offered a small wave and turned toward his room. You helped him, right? She asked. Ichigo nodded. Of course. Ichigo, how are you doing? Kigo shouted, climbing onto the teen's back. Ichigo growled, flipping the youth off of his back, and onto the floor. Not in the mood, Asano, Ichigo said, sitting in his chair. Kigo found tears welling up in his eyes. Ichigo. Why are you so cruel to me, he whined. Ichigo rolled his eyes, as Orihime approached his desk. Good morning, Kurosaki-kun, she said, brightly, digging in her bag, I have something for you. Good morn dash. Good morning, Inoue-san. Kigo interjected, you are as vibrant and lovely as ever. Orihime was slightly taken aback, but she offered one of her big, bright smiles. Oh, good morning, Asano-kun, she said. She pulled out a can of coffee and held in her hands. When I went to get a sweet tea from the vending machines, the machine gave me a can of coffee, she said, trembling nervously, something Ichigo smirked at. I don't drink coffee, and Tatsuki-chan said that you do, so. He held her hands out and looked away. Ichigo smiled and looked up at the young woman. I appreciate it, Inoue, he said, taking the can. I didn't get a chance to get a coffee this morning, so that makes this little mistake perfect. Inoue smiled brightly, as she played with her hands. So, it's fine. And nothing wrong. Perfect. Rukia walked through the door, and sat at her desk, and plopped her head on it. Good morning, Kuchiki, Ichigo said, with a wicked grin, I see you're going to be a pleasant experience today. She turned her head and gave him a viscous glare. Kuchiki-san, are you alright? Orihime asked, a lot more worried than Ichigo was. I have a sweet tea I haven't opened. If it makes you feel better, I can give it to you. Rukia, surprised by the concern someone who barely knew her showed, smiled. Ah, no thank you. I'm fine. I'm just tired. The morning bell rang, and the shuffle of feet rang throughout the classroom, as students went to their desks. Ichigo looked over at Rukia, who had barely moved. What's eating you? He asked, taking a sip of his coffee. Rukia glared at him and turned away. Can't you, at least, show a little compassion? She asked, bitterly. I could. Ichigo replied, I don't see why I have to. You are the one with the attitude, young lady. Not me. I don't have an attitude. I'm just stressed. My powers haven't shown any sign that they are recovering. Aren't we all? Kurosaki, be serious. This situation isn't good. And you are telling me this obvious information why? Because. Wait a minute, I don't need to explain myself to you. Even though I have your much desired powers. You seriously don't need to explain anything to me? Whatever. I have something for you. Oh, goody. Bet it's a great gift. Better than a can of coffee. Not better from a can of coffee from Inoue, Ichigo said, with a snicker, in fact, a gift from you makes it worse. So, what is it? Ichigo said, arms crossed, leaning against a wall. Rukia pulled out a device, that looked like a PEZ dispenser, Ichigo said, shocked, and a bit insulted, you bring me, the one who's been doing your bullshit job, so your butt doesn't get in trouble, and all you have for a thanks, is a FNG PEZ dispenser. It's not a PEZ dispenser, whatever that is. Rukia shouted back, it's a soul candy dispenser. Ichigo looked at her, incredulously. Oh, I'm sorry. That makes this so much better. I always wanted to know what soul candy tastes like. Now, my life is complete. It's useful, in case I'm not around. Ichigo looked down. You know what? I kinda wish it was a PEZ dispenser now. Inside of the dispenser is a soul candy. It forces you out of your body, as the soul candy controls your body, with 108 different set personalities. This sounds a lot like an infomercial. You say something? Rukia said. Ichigo shook his head. Alright, let's see if this thing works. Rukia slammed her hand over Ichigo's mouth, forcing a green circular pill, something that resembled a jawbreaker, and Ichigo, clad in his Shinigami garb, was forced out. Ichigo's human body started to stir. Oh, look at that, Ichigo said, it works. Woot. Rukia's cell phone buzzed, and Ichigo facepalmed. Son of a beach, he groaned. Don't worry, master, the mod soul said, I'll make sure no one realizes that you are gone. He then offered a bright smile. Ichigo glared at him. I severely doubt that. Let's go, Kurosaki, Rukia said. Ichigo turned to her, then turned back to the mod soul. F up, and I will crush you. No doubt. He then turned away, and ran off, with Rukia. The mod soul waved them off and smiled a wicked smile. Take your time. A centipede hollow slithered about, claws scratching up the pavement. The masked fiend fired off a small Zero, which Ichigo easily jumped over. Dai Shinigami, the hollow cried, slapping his tail at the orange-haired teen. Ichigo ducked under, before boosting at the face, sword ready. The hollow, knowing that he was going to be struck, curled backward, and found its body cut into two. There was no more fighting for now, and the hollow retreated into a portal. Ichigo landed on the ground. Well, that was not interesting. Get me back into my body. Rukia narrowed her eyes. The hollow isn't dead, she said, we might have to stay out, and look for it. Unfortunately, you do not have someone who is willing to do that, so that is a no-go. Why are you in such a hurry? The soul candy got everything locked up. And that's why I am worried. I'm not the most trustworthy person, especially with weird things in my body. So, your little mistake plan worked, huh? Tatsuki asked her busty friend, how did it go? It wasn't a plan. Orihime squeaked, it was a mistake. Honest. Tatsuki rolled her eyes. Right. Anyway, you get anywhere today? Kurosaki-kun seemed a little bit happier after I gave him the coffee. Ichigo and the happy emotion do not go together. I'm sure he'll find a way. I don't know why you're into that JRK, Haim-chan, Chizuru interjected, sitting at the desk next to the two, you'll be better with someone who be beyond the earthly limits of joy to be with you. And by any chance, would you be referring to yourself? Tatsuki asked, bluntly. And? What's wrong with that? The fact that you are a weird woman with weird interests is the only thing wrong with that. And how do you know what I'm into? I've been to your house. You can hide in public, but your house reveals all. Who says that I would hide in public? Tatsuki narrowed her eyes. I believe that this conversation is over. Orihime, so about. Tatsuki looked around, only to see Orihime looking out of the window. Orihime, what are you doing? Looking at Kurosaki-kun. Orihime replied. Tatsuki looked down. No need to be a stalker. No, Kurosaki-kun is acting weird. Tatsuki rose an eyebrow. What is he doing? He's skipping. I'm skipping. Ichigo said, looking at the mod soul controlling his body, bounce around like a child. Rukia frowned. This does not look like a good investment, she said, crossing her arms. No dip, genius. The mod soul skipped around, happily enjoying his time when he spotted a lovely girl, with lovely auburn hair, looking out of the window. The mod soul's borrowed heart skipped a beat. Whoa mama, he said, before smirking, bending over in a high jump stance. He launched himself off of the ground, and into the room where the girl was. Ichigo looked at the ridiculous display of athleticism, then at Rukia, before shaking his head. It hasn't even been a week since I met you, and you have already ruined my life plenty of times, he said. Maybe I should have just let you die back then. Maybe we can go fix this, instead of you complaining. Ururu. Urahara shouted, Ururu. I have something to ask you. A timid girl, with black ponytails, walked into the room. Yes, Urahara-san, she said. Ah, do you know where this box came from? He asked, calmly. It's the box I got the soul candy out of. Did I do something wrong? Urahara looked at the box and frowned. Oh dear, he said, I guess I got a little cleaning up to do. I'm sorry. Ururu squeaked, falling to the ground, in a bow. Urahara smiled and patted her on her head. No harm done. We can fix this, he said, Tessai. Keep shop. A man in sunglasses, hair and long braids appeared, and nodded. I have to take a quick leave right now. Hello, beautiful, the mod soul said, holding Orihime. How the radiance of the sun could not ever hope to match your beauty. Orihime blinked, then pulled her hand away. Who are you? She asked. The mod soul blinked. What do you mean? I'm Ichigo. Orihime blinked again. You're not Kurosaki-kun. Sure I am. Then what is my name? Who are you? Ichigo, what's gotten into you? Tatsuki asked. The mod soul, seeing his chances dwindle with Orihime, decided to move in on her black-haired friend. Unfortunately, he was not aware of that little detail. Such an athletic body, he said, wrapping his arm around her waist, believing that being closer was an effective move in the game of flirting. Maybe we can spend a little time together. Tatsuki was not impressed. Back off, Ichigo, or did you forgot who you were talking to? She said. The mod soul, failing rather badly, decided to go for it all, with a swift kiss to the cheek. This was not a smart idea at all. In a fit of rage, he found himself tossed across the classroom, on his back. Tatsuki roared, eyes furrowed in a blind rage. The mod soul thought that it was the proper time to leave. Well, combine that with the fact that Ichigo had come back, insanely said. Sheet, the mod soul shouted, scampering away, before the door opened, revealing Rukia. Reversing field, the mod soul bolted for the window. Get back here. Ichigo shouted, reaching out for him. The mod soul ducked, then leaped out of the window. Ichigo blinked, before turning to Sado, and motioning for him to come with him. Sado nodded, before sprinting out of the classroom, with Rukia following him. With no more business to attend to in the classroom, Ichigo hopped out of the window, and sprinted after his body. Hoping that no one saw him in his spirit form, he ran, wishing that this little incident would just fade away. Unfortunately for his paranoid state, there was two people in the classroom that could see him. One, who held hatred and contempt for him, the other, worried about what was going on. This is all your fault. Ichigo said, face buried in his hands. Whatever grace or good favor you held before, has been completely and utterly demolished. I look like a RPST now. It's not that bad. We can fix that little part, Rukia said. At the moment, all we need to do is get the mod soul back. Mod soul? What's that? Ichigo asked. Rukia sighed, and grabbed her notebook. Well, she said, happily scribbling a description of the events. Ichigo narrowed his eyes. Explain with words, not your drawings, he said, upset. What's wrong with you? My body is inhabited by some renegade pervert, possibly molesting women on trains or being some other form of horrible person that I like to believe myself as not. It was on the cheek. I don't think it's too bad. Literally every single bit of romance that you have studied has come from some bad shoujo junk. I'm sorry, you are not an expert in how society works. What's wrong with that? Because possible imprisonment. We can fix that. Ichigo narrowed his eyes, in irritation. This is just a game to you, eh? Of course, it is. I'm not the one molesting people, Rukia teased, followed up with a giggle. Ichigo kneeled on the ground, frustration and anger pouring out of his body. Urge to kill, rising, he snarled, when Rukia's phone went off, alerting the trio of a hollow. Kurosaki, the hollow is back. Rukia shouted, no longer in a teasing mood. Chad, go with the girl, get the hollow that I'll get my body back. Ichigo said, tonelessly. Are you sure? Rukia asked. Ichigo answered that question, by running off. Rukia sighed, and turned to Sado. Alright Yasutora-san. Let's go. Sado nodded, and ran off, Rukia following closely. Oh my, what has happened here, Urahara Kisuke said, walking into the ruined classroom. Tatsuki, who looked more like a demon, stood tall, aura basically burning off of her. With a chuckle, the shopkeeper pulled out a white ball, with the word cleanse on it, written in kanji, and placed it on the ground. Who are you? Tatsuki barked, as the blond man smashed it with his cane, and a white smoke flooded the room. Everyone, but two, Inoue Orihime, and a young man reading a novel, fainted. Who are you? Orihime asked. Urahara blinked. Ah, who are you? He said, a little surprised. Orihime looked at the young man in the corner, then back at the older gentleman. How do I know that I can trust you? She asked. Urahara looked up. Well, I can say that I am an ally of Kurosaki-san, does that help? Orihime nodded. Can you tell me on what's going on? I can, but you are going to have to keep this between the two of you. Is that a deal, miss? Orihime nodded again, and Urahara turned to the fellow awake classmate. Sorry about this, but I am going to have to ask you to leave, he said. The man shut his book, and started for the door. The affairs of that idiot Shinigami do not matter to me, he said, but you have the audacity to bring in an unaligned classmate, especially someone like Inoue-san, is disgusting, even for the likes of you. He walked through the door, and slammed it shut. So, are you ready? Urahara asked, it might be a little much. Orihime nodded, and Urahara removed his hat. It all started a couple of days ago. The mod soul ran, hoping that the actual owner of the body had given up his chase. You aren't taking this away from me, he shouted, as a claw jut out from the wall. The mod soul fell to the ground, as Hollow emerged, looking menacingly at him. Sheet, he said, backing away. Sado punched the ground, creating a fissure, which knocked the centipede Hollow high into the air. Sado followed up, by grabbing the tail, and slamming the monster into the ground. From its back, the Hollow attempted to protect itself by firing off a Zero, which Sado easily dodged. With quick feet, the dark-skinned male advanced in, and punched the Hollow in the middle of its mask, completely shattering it. The Hollow's body faded away, and Rukia's phone blared again. What? Did the Hollow split apart? She shouted. Where is it? Sado shouted. The phone then went dead, and Rukia rose an eyebrow. That's odd, she said. What should we do? Sado asked. Rukia looked at the giant and shrugged. I guess, nothing. I'll see you at school. The mod soul cowered, but the anticipated attack never came. He opened one eye, only to see Kurosaki Ichigo, standing over the fading away assaulter. The youth then turned to his body, and grabbed it by the collar. Do you think that this sheet is funny? He said, slamming the body into the wall. He then punched him several times in the face, knowing how odd this would look. He held the mod soul up, and glared at him. Get out of my body, he said, violently. The mod soul quivered, before finding a cane to the forehead. The mod soul pill launched itself out of Ichigo's body's throat, and into Soul Ichigo's forehead. Shopkeeper, Ichigo said, re-entering his body, thank you for that. He then picked up the pill, and stared at it. BSTRD. Indeed, Urahara said, due to an unfortunate mix-up, the soul candy pill you received was actually a mod soul, a device designed to enhance the body's natural abilities, in order to create artificial soldiers. However, due to their unpredictable behavior, they were discontinued, and destroyed. See, why can't Rukia just do that? Ichigo said. Pardon? Just explain things, instead of drawing sheet. Who knows? Anyway, I'll get rid of this for you. I already erased the memories of your classmates for you, too. Good riddance, Ichigo said, tossing the pill at Urahara. Instead, a hand snatched it out of mid-air. I'm sorry, Rukia said, I believe that I paid for this. And I'm pretty sure he said that this was a mistake, and a mistake that should be gotten rid of. It's okay. We'll take this one. Ichigo facepalmed. God, you are so very stupid. Will this doll work? Ichigo said, holding up a worn doll lion plush. Rukia looked at the pill, and shrugged. She placed the pill in the mouth, and the doll burst to life. By clinging close to Rukia's chest. Thank you for saving me, the mod soul cried, you're much better than that JRK over there. Rukia grinned, as Ichigo's glare deepened. I believe that we are done here, Ichigo said, darkly, ripping the plush off, and placing it in his bag. Rukia, I do not want to see you for the rest of the day. Rukia blinked, wondering if what she heard was accurate. Did you just call me Rukia? She asked. What of it? This little incident brought us together. Ichigo looked softened, before and fell into a deep laughter. Oh, you would think that, Ichigo said, between laughs, all that means is that I like you less than ever before. You have lost last name rights, with me. You really are in but. Wow, you're just getting that through your tiny head. Yo Yuzu, I got something for ya, Ichigo said, tossing the toy lion to her. She looked at it, and gushed on how cute it was, if it was fixed up a little. Sighing, Ichigo dropped his bag, and started changing clothes. Oh, Oniai-san. Yuzu said, knocking on the door, the marketplace has a sale today. I was wondering if you wanted to go with me. Ichigo closed his eyes, knowing that he probably needed to rest, as a nice, calm, uneventful afternoon is something that he needed. Sure. I'll be ready in a minute. Urahara sat, in his office, as a black cat entered, through the window. The shopkeeper took a sip of his sake, and tipped his hat. I'm aware that you came into contact with Inoue Orihime today, the cat said, in a deep voice, could you explain why? Somehow, she can see the dead, and she has spiritual pressure, Urahara explained, while normally, this would be no big deal, but now. You didn't explain anything, right? Yoruchi, I'm a shopkeeper. Not an idiot. Dropping something like that, this early in the game is a bad move. He took another sip, and sighed. But she'll find out. All we have to do now is make sure it's not too soon. Chapter 5, Something in the Way. June 15th. We make a pretty good little team, huh? Rukia said, holding a juice box. Ichigo and Sado shrugged. I don't know, Ichigo said, normally all members of a team actually help out, instead of just complaining and telling others what to do. Rukia narrowed her eyes. I'm trying to be friendly, Ichigo. And I'm trying to be real. And don't call me Ichigo. Why not? It's a neat little name. I think it's plenty cute, Rukia said, with an innocent smile on her face. What do you think, Yasutora-san? Sado said nothing, knowing that he never actually thought about what Ichigo's name in any way. Kuchiki-san. Kigo shouted, why don't you eat lunch with us? You're always spending time with Sado and Ichigo. Rukia chuckled. Sorry, Asano-san, but we're dash. Take her, Ichigo said, picking up Rukia by the collar, and pushing her away. We don't want her anyway. What the hell? Rukia shouted, what's your problem? Problem? I do not have a problem. I have problems, my friends, and I like to reflect on my multitude of problems alone. Peace. Ichigo opened the door, leading back into the interior of the school, and walked away. Ms. Wiro whistled. "Phew, you got a handful with that guy," he said. Rukia shifted her eyes at him. "If you are implying what I think, you might want to stop." June 15th. Ichigo said, looking at his phone, standing near the river. It had been about 6 weeks since he had become a substitute Shinigami, and his life really hasn't changed that much. Work was still boring, and people still confused his place of employment with a eel shop, and his boss still lived to make his life hell, but that was usual. Family was still unusually close, but that was usual. School was still dull, but that was usual. The only thing he found unusual to his schedule was the patrol, and that was a real pain. Rukia, thinking that he and Chad didn't have anything better to do at the time, besides sleep, says that patrol is a mandatory order, to make sure you're ready to protect humanity, and their interests. Ichigo, despite his well-said argument that neither he or Chad were Shinigami, and thus, they shouldn't have to be on patrol. Unfortunately, Rukia said that they had to, and refused to take any other answer. To be fair, he and Sado split days that they would go, so that sleep wouldn't go to waste. Rukia wasn't too heartless to make the two work every day. Surprisingly, Chad and Rukia had become quick friends, despite the massive, and I mean massive, difference between the two. Rukia, loud and brash, and very, very short. Chad, quiet and calm, and very, very big. Yet, friends. That was nice. Khan, the mod soul Ichigo wanted to get rid of so very badly, was annoying, complaining about everything. His body, his owner, the lack of attractive females giving him attention, and Ichigo himself. Luckily, the idiot was easy to shut up, so it wasn't that bad. Ichigo sighed, checking the clock on his phone. The water splashed, as a fish flopped out. Ichigo swept his hand through his hair, and began walking back to school. June 16th. "Good morning, Kurosaki-kun." Orihime brightly chirped out. Ichigo scowled. "Morning," he said, sharply. Orihime brought her hand down. "Kurosaki-kun, are you okay?" "I'm fine." Ichigo rubbed his forehead, "Just a headache." "Rukia, I have to request a night off." Ichigo said, eyes shut, "Tomorrow, I won't be able to make it." Rukia rose an eyebrow. "Why?" she asked. "Personal reasons." "Again, why?" "Personal reasons." Ichigo stood up, and looked to Ms. Wiro and Kigo, "I won't be here tomorrow. You got anything for me?" "What?" "You're skipping school." Kigo shouted, "Don't become the delinquent that you look like. Stay on the high road." "Shut up, Kigo. Don't find yourself off the roof, and eating pavement." "It's not skipping, for I have an excuse." "And what's the excuse?" Ms. Wiro asked. "Personal reasons." "Which are?" "Don't find yourself following Asano." "Oh, he was so mad today that I tried to say good morning, like I always do, but he was really upset. I hope I didn't make him even more angry." "Orihime," Tatsuki said, calmly. "Oh, what if he's mad at me? I hope I didn't do anything to offend him. I tried to make myself presentable and respectable. What if he thinks I'm a loose woman?" "Orihime. I just wanted to be nice to everyone. I hope he doesn't take it the wrong way. I clear it up, maybe he doesn't want to talk to me. He may never like me." Orihime felt tears welling in her eyes. "Orihime," Tatsuki said, placing a hand on her shoulder, "calm down. Ichigo isn't mad at you. It's just that a long story." Orihime felt a sense of worry overtake her sense of despair. "I have time." "Kurosaki," Rukia said, walking through the doors of the school, "I thought about what you asked earlier." "And what did you think?" Ichigo said. "Well, Sado-san had no problems with going 2 nights in a row. And if you want to take a night off, who am I to tell you otherwise?" "Thank you, Rukia." But that mean you're going to have to go 2 nights, okay? Whatever. That's fine. Ichigo plucked at his guitar strings, softly. While it wasn't plugged in, the dead tones helped his mind relax. He closed his eyes, trying to think. June 17, 5:47 a.m. Ichigo awoke, and for some reason, felt like there was something wrong. June 17, 6:32 a.m. Ichigo, despite the clear skies, was determined that it was going to rain. He decided that he was going to send out a text message, warning his friends, and let that be that. Oh wait. Inoue didn't have a cell phone. Well, he could just call her instead. He opened his phone book, and slid the cursor to her name, where he froze. Do I really want to call her, he sighed, before turning off the phone's screen. He guessed that Tatsuki would just handle it. June 17, 7:09 a.m. Rain. Rukia said, reading Ichigo's text. She looked up into the morning sky, only to see clear skies ahead. It's not going to rain, idiot, she said, smiling. She looked around, and thought it best to bring an umbrella anyway. For precautionary reasons. June 17, 8:07 a.m. Inoue Orihime sat her desk, reading a light novel, when Tatsuki entered the classroom. Whoa, you're early, she said, class doesn't start for another 20 minutes. What's up? Orihime snapped out of her trance, and replied with a soft, and slightly confused, huh? Wow, you are lost today. Oh, sorry, what did you say? Tatsuki shook her head. Never mind. So, did you hear from Ichigo this morning? No, what did he say? He said that it's going to rain today. What an idiot. There's not a cloud in the sky. Orihime closed her book and smiled. Rain, huh? She said, brightly, good thing I brought my umbrella. June 17, 9:29 a.m. God DMN, it's hot. Ichigo said, wiping sweat off of his forehead. Despite the calm, albeit scorching, day, nothing could convince Ichigo that the day would be okay. Nevertheless, he had to hide his dread, at least to appease his family. June 17, 10:06 a.m. Don't cry. Don't cry. Don't see cry. Yuzu said, blinking furiously, trying desperately not to spill tears, like she had done every time they visited the memorial. Stop being such a baby, Yuzu, Karen said, you can't keep doing this. Does Daddy need to use his cheerful dance? Ishin cried. Karen groaned. No need for that. Why? Daddy's just trying to cheer up his daughter. You're not helping. Wah, Karen. You're so cruel. Ichigo smiled at his family's antics, despite feeling a large, ominous presence. June 16. We met, when we were 4. Tatsuki said, to an attentive Orihime, he was a scrawny kid, with his stupid orange hair, holding his mother's hand dearly. He came into the dojo, and wanted to fight the strongest kid in the class. So we got in the ring together, and I made him cry in 10 seconds. Easiest victory in my life. He kept crying, until his mom came back, and consoled him. Then, like that, Ichigo would go back to smiling like an idiot again. Unfortunately, all this changed 6 years ago. June 17, 10:23 a.m. Kon, this is your last chance. Fail me today, and you will be crushed, Ichigo said, to the pill, I hope you understand. He popped the pill in, emerged, in his Shinigami uniform. Ichigo, what are you doing? Kon said. Can't you feel it? There's something nearby. Karen, what's going on? Yuzu whimpered, feeling a heavy presence near her. Karen stood, about 15 feet away from her twin, dead silent. Can she see us too? A feminine voice, hidden away from Yuzu said, to Karen. She shook her head. Let's us go, she said. The figure laughed. Then, my dear, what will we have to eat? Hurry up. Ichigo shouted, jumping up the hill, at a blistering pace. Kon gasped, trying to keep up. "Geez, Ichigo. Calm down," shouted Kon. Ichigo swooped back down, and clutched him by his collar. "Shut up." He then dragged him to the top of the hill, where his sister were lying on the ground, unconscious. June 16. After his mom died, he became a different person. He stopped enjoying the little things, and became a cynic. In class, Ichigo became withdrawn, and in karate, he lacked mercy. In fact, after he beat me for the first time, instead of enjoying his victory like he said he was, he just left the dojo, and never came back. I thought that was going to be the last time I ever see him. Then, somehow, we were placed in the same high school classes, and I was excited to see him again. See if he was doing better. To make things right again, but when we spoke, his personality seemed off. He looked happy, but wasn't. He spoke like he was changed, but he was as broken as he was before. And every time I asked if I could help, he refused me, and shut me out, again. I did whatever I could to help, but there's only so much one person can do. Orihime looked down. "But what can I do?" she said, softly. Tatsuki patted her on the shoulder. "Listen," she replied, with a confident smile, "Ichigo needs someone who will listen to him, but won't judge him for what he says. And I believe that you're the person to do that." June 17, 10:29 a.m. Ichigo looked at his sisters, then at the hollow, then at Hollow's weird head extension, leading to a familiar figure, and he rose his eyebrow. "I know you," he said, with a sharp tone, "you're the one who killed my mother." The hollow laughed. "I can't say I remember you, though," the hollow said, "when you eat as many children that we do, sometimes, you get a mother too." Ichigo narrowed his eyes. "Kon, get my sisters out of here," he ordered. Without a sound, Kon gathered the twins and ran back down the hill. The hollow chuckled. "Futile effort, Shinigami," it said, "after I'm done devouring you, I'll get those little girls." Ichigo ripped his sword out of his sheath and stared down the large beast. Light drops of rain fell from the sky. "Unfortunately for you, I cannot allow that to happen." Rukia could not find words to say, as her phone rang, with the largest hollow readings that she ever seen. While her phone also detected that Ichigo was there, would he be enough? "On my lunch break, I'll get down there," she said, knowing that whatever was happening, was not good. Ichigo dashed in, sword ready, as the hollow launched sharp tentacles at him, which he easily flipped over, and cut them away. In retaliation, the hollow fired a Siro, which Ichigo sliced though, as it was wet tissue paper. Landing back on the ground, Ichigo burst for the hollow, who summoned more tentacles. The attack was to no avail, as Ichigo's advance was too fast, and before he could react, his right forelimb was hacked away. With a roar, the hollow fired a Siro into the ground, and the two combatants jumped away from each. "How disgusting," the hollow shouted, "new arm forming, I haven't been forced to heal myself in years." "How dare you!" Ichigo glared at it. "How are you?" the hollow cried, extending his claws. He charged and moved forward, paws extended. Ichigo caught the brunt of the attack by blocking, but the claws pricked him, and in a reactionary move, the orange-haired man pushed back. "You," the hollow said, "you were a Shinigami all the time." "Impossible." "So, you remember now?" Ichigo said. The hollow chuckled. "Why, of course. I remember how tasty my meal was that day. And now, after all of these years, I can now finish it." Ichigo chuckled. "Now that was confirmed," he said, before charging at the hollow, who fired tentacles at him, from nearly every direction, forcing Ichigo to redirect his assault. The hollow fired Siros into the sky, randomly, none of them connecting with Ichigo, but at least forcing to take a more predictable approach. Unfortunately for the hollow, Ichigo was not in the mood for simple tricks, and cut right through the Siro, nearly losing his right arm in the process. "What?" the hollow cried, wondering how insane this Shinigami actually was. He fired off more tentacles, none of them impeding the Shinigami's advance. Ichigo found himself beside the hollow, who had one more trick up his sleeve. The lure on his head transformed into a woman with long brown hair and fair skin. Ichigo narrowed his eyes. The hollow, using the visage of Kurosaki Masaki, figured that the Shinigami would be too stunned to do anything. But, then again, this was his first time meeting Kurosaki Ichigo, who glared at the woman, reaching her arms out. The rain increased, turning the ground into a solid pile of mud. In one easy, swift, and clean slash, Ichigo decapitated the model of his mother. The hollow's eyes widened, in horror, as this Shinigami completely destroyed his most valuable self-defense mechanism, and tried to flee, as quickly as possible. Ichigo, who had other plans, stabbed his sword into the underarm of the beast, and used this as momentum to roll himself onto its back. He then jumped into the air, bringing his massive sword into the lower back of the hollow, impaling him to the ground. Ichigo rolled off the back, and grabbed one of the forelimbs. Neat trick, Ichigo snarled, holding a viscous grin, too bad it didn't work. What the hell are you? The hollow cried, bewildered. Ichigo replied by tearing the hollow's limb off, and tossing it aside. The hollow squirmed, in pain, yet could not find itself free. Grow it back. Ichigo demanded. The hollow's arm grew back, despite the beast not wanting it to. Think it's funny to treat humans as fish, eh? Ichigo said, before ripping off the newly grown arm. The hollow thrashed about, before Ichigo put a halt to that, by smashing the beast in its neck. Don't move. Ichigo growled, moving over the other side, we're only getting started. A being, in a long black hooded trench coat, with a red crossing pattern on the back, from a near-side hill, watched over, pleased with what he was seeing. The black butterfly, that rested on his hand fluttered, trying in vain to dry its wings. I think we may finally have our chance, he said, and to think, I would find it on the anniversary of my sister's demise. June 17, 12:15 p.m. Ichigo. Ichigo. Rukia shouted, running with her umbrella. Kon rose his head. Nei-san. Ichigo's fighting one of those hollow things, and I think he went nuts. Kon shouted. Rukia blinked. What do you mean? After dropping off his sisters, I went back up there, to see him tearing off the limbs of the hollow, saying stuff like he's lost count and stuff. Rukia looked up the hill. What happened up there? Sometimes, you really wish you were kept in the dark on things. Ichigo was standing in the middle of a massive blood pool, holding a detached hollow head, blood nearly covering his entire body. Scattered limbs, that hadn't faded away decorated the ground. The entire field smelled like blood, despite the heavy rain. Ichigo. Rukia called out, only getting Ichigo to shift his eyes. What are you down here? He asked, bitterly. What happened here? What do you think? He said, as the head had evaporated away, I killed a hollow. June 17, 7:12 p.m. Ichigo, for the first time in the day, found peace, standing at his mother's tomb. The rain hadn't stopped, but that did not matter. Kurosaki-kun. Orihime said, softly, underneath a white umbrella. Ichigo turned his head towards her, then back. Are you okay? She asked. Ichigo nodded. I'm as okay as I've always been. That I'm sorry if I'm intruding. You're not. Orihime blinked. I'm not. No, you are not, Ichigo said, a bit more forcefully this time, tragedy brings company, as they say. I guess we're here. But, even after a tragedy, you can still return, better than ever. How idealistic. Ichigo said. Orihime looked down, afraid of what to say next. No matter what one does, tragedy, disaster, hatred, and war will still be there. Idealism is there, for those who want to ignore it, those who want it to be blissful in ignorance. Not everyone can be content with that way of life. But, if you let pain get to you, how do you find happiness? If everyone is a cynic, no one does anything. If everyone is an idealist, everyone does nothing. There has to be a balance, so people can achieve their goals. Those who desire are aware on what they want. They have to be idealistic enough to see it come to fruition, but cynical enough to know that they can fail. Those arrogant enough to believe that they can achieve bliss without sacrifice are foolish. Then what do you want? And do you believe that you can reach it? Long gone are the days where I had a future. Is it the Shinigami responsibilities? Ichigo chuckled. So, you do remember, but, for your question, no, that is not the reason. Then what is? If I told you, you would not understand. Ichigo began to walk off. Was it worth it? Orihime asked, softly. Ichigo paused. What? You said before that everyone has to sacrifice something, to achieve their goals. So, whatever you sacrificed, was it worth it? Ichigo, for the first time, in the conversation, had no response. Chapter 6, Dead Insects. For the first time in Rukia's Shinigami career, she felt absolute dread at a fellow ally. Even when that incident happened, she still felt hope that he could be saved, despite the critical condition he was in. But Ichigo. Ichigo terrified her. His dead glare. The hint of madness expressed in his face. Not to mention his voice. He sounded fierce, deadly, desperate. She wanted nothing more than to discharge him of his duty, and take back her powers, but she knew she couldn't do that. But she had to question the mental stability of the boy. It was odd on how easy and quickly he snapped. During their patrol nights, Ichigo was very calm, killing an enemy rather quickly, spurting out some sarcastic comments, but that was it. Why was this one different, she asked, aloud. Was it the pressure finally reaching him? Was it fear? Whatever it was, she knew she wasn't going to get it by asking. What? Rukia asked, holding her boxed lunch. Orihime, holding her own lunch, looked into the shorter female's eyes, pleading with her. Come on. Can you please eat lunch with me, she asked. Rukia blinked. Oh okay, she said. Orihime grabbed Rukia's wrist, and ran off, dragging the smaller girl. Ichigo rose an eyebrow, as Tatsuki walked to his desk. Wonder where they're going, she said. Ichigo shrugged. So, you can see spirits? Rukia asked, sternly. Orihime nodded. And you remember what happened that night? Again, Orihime nodded. Rukia shook her head. This doesn't make any sense. Maybe when I died Why you didn't die? Rukia hurriedly said, your soul was just removed from your body temporarily. Orihime blinked. Doesn't that mean the same thing, she asked. No well, I don't think so. You're still here, anyway, so it doesn't matter. Still, do you think that could be a reason? We don't have any other theories. Boha ha ha ha. Isshin shouted, arms folded in an X, over his chest. Ichigo grimaced. I will kill you in your sleep if you ever do that again, he growled. Isshin frowned. How disrespectful, my son is, he cried, I thought I trained you better than this. I'm not a DMN dog. Leave me alone. Boha ha ha ha. Yuzu shouted, forming the same pose as her father. Ichigo narrowed his eyes. No more of that, he said, placing an open hand on her head. Ichigo then walked into the kitchen, opened the refrigerator, and grabbed a can of orange Fanta. What are you doing anyway, he asked. You haven't heard about Don Kananji? Yuzu asked. Who? He's a quack, that claims he can see ghosts. Karen said, from down the hall. Karen. Don Kananji can see ghosts. Ichigo popped the tab on his soda. And? What's so special about that? He defeats the evil spirits. Isn't that cool? Ichigo chuckled. Wow, that is cool, he said, sarcastic drawl in his tone, what's with the sudden posing and stuff? Wow, Oniai-chan, you are slow, Yuzu said, he's coming to Karakura town, next week. Bohahaha. Kigo and Mizuiro shouted, in unison, standing at Ichigo's desk, who had his forehead, firmly implanted in it. Do not start with me, he growled. He rose his head, tiredly. What's wrong, Ichigo? Kigo asked, aren't you excited that Don Kananji is coming to Karakura? We got you a ticket. No, I'm not, Ichigo replied, and unfortunately for you, and myself, I'm going with my family. Get someone else to go with you. Like who? Chad. We already gave Sado-kun his ticket. Mizuiro interjected. Ichigo shrugged. Get a date. Yeah. But who should I ask? Maybe Inoue-san. Ichigo bust out in laughter, leaning back in his seat. Whoa, buddy, way to set your standards high, he said, grinning. What? You don't think it could happen? Dude, you have a better shot with the lesbian. Try someone in your level. The door to the classroom and Rukia walked in. Like Kuchiki. Rukia narrowed her eyes and sat at her desk. You think so? Kigo asked, which Ichigo responded with a nod. Kuchiki-san. Will you go to the show with me, he said, holding out a ticket. Rukia looked at the ticket, back up at Kigo, then back at the ticket. What show? She asked. Ichigo snorted. Don Kananji's Ghost Bus. Have you heard of it? Rukia, at the mention of ghosts, perked up and put on her actor's face. Oh, I would be delighted to go with you, Asano-san. I just didn't know what show it was, she said. Because she's homeless, and all, Ichigo added, playing with his pencil. Rukia shifted her eyes. Oh, well, I'll meet you at the show, okay. Kigo said, sitting in his desk. Smooth, Asano. What is he talking about? Rukia asked, what is this show about? I don't know. Watch it, Ichigo answered. Not helping. Where am I going to watch it? Urahara doesn't have a television. Go over a friend's house. So I can watch it at your house. At a friend's house. Go over Chad's or Inoue's house and watch it. Leave me the hell alone. What a wonderful person you are. The next day, Ichigo sat at his desk, balancing his pencil on the end of his finger. It was rare that he would get a relaxing morning like this. Just a morning to himself, one where he can just reflect on the direction of his life, and... Bohahaha. Orihime and Rukia synchronized together. Ichigo gripped the pencil, and jammed it into the desk, shattering it into two. No more, he said, pressing his head against his desk, no more. No more. Ichigo said, rubbing his temples, no more. Shut up, you child, Ishin said, patting his son on his back, sk it up, be here for your sisters. The only reason why I'm here is for my sisters, stupid. God, let this be over quickly. The Sterling Experiments. That's a name I haven't heard in a while, Kisuke said, smoking a pipe. What could that crazy fool be up to? Sterling was one of your maggots, if I remember correctly, the black cat, Yoruchi said, he's your responsibility. Deal with it. Urahara sighed, and grabbed his cane. Okay, if you believe that this is his fault, I'll go. Something was wrong. And it wasn't a hollow. Ichigo felt no spiritual pressure. He felt nothing of a lurking beast. He definitely heard the screaming spirit, screaming regrets and misery, but that was it. This is depressing, he said, I'm going to the restroom. But you'll miss everything. Yuzu cried. Ichigo shrugged. It's not that important. Is that him? Up in the helicopter. Kigo shouted, excitedly. Mizuiro frowned. Wow, you were actually excited for this, he said, harshly, that's rather sad of you. You don't have to be so mean. Kigo whined. Sado frowned, as a stiff breeze hit the group. It's probably nothing. Rukia said, disarming him, I haven't gotten any orders yet. Spirits. Don Kananji shouted, falling from the sky, are always with you. Oh, it's you. Ichigo said, eyes narrowed, what's going on now? Ichigo's body was laid out, limp, as Urahara Kisuke stood over him. Yeah, it's a little complicated. But you have to get in there, and stop that medium, okay, he said. Ichigo frowned. Whatever. Smells like bad spirits. Don Kananji shouted, holding his arms out, do not worry, as the famed Don Kananji will save your soul. Who the hell are you? The spirit screamed. Don Kananji nodded and stuck his cane in the hole in the chest of the spirit. I'll send you to heave dash, he started, before he was thrown into a wall. The crowd gasped. No more of that, Ichigo said, before turning his attention to the spirit, let's get this over with. Who are you, foul spirit? Don Kananji shouted, unharmed. Ichigo chuckled. For an idiot, you can sure take a punch, he said, I'm the one going to prevent this tragedy. Stand aside. Are you working with this ghoul? No. Then why did you attack me? I'm only do what's best. Shut up, and let me handle this. Before Ichigo got to handle this, a massive explosion destroyed the west wing of the hospital. Ichigo and Don Kananji turned their attention to it, as the crowd scattered. What did you do? Don Kananji asked, bewildered. That's not me. Ichigo said, running toward to blast radius. When he arrived, nothing, but Rukia and Urahara were there. Ichigo frowned. What's going on? He asked. Nothing of your concern, Rukia replied, this is a job outside of our boundaries. Go home. Bleach, please. Old man, tell me what the hell is going on. Urahara's smile faded. Looks like we got demons, he answered. Ichigo frowned. A demon? Really? Yes, really. You are not equipped to fight one now. Go home. Whatever. The least I can do is keep this thing from attacking others. Go home, Kurosaki-san, Urahara said, I'll take care of it. You don't even know where it is. Urahara paused. Fine, that if you want, go ahead. Just don't die or anything. The shopkeeper walked away, smiling. Rukia frowned. You are not fighting this thing. Think twice, my dear, he said, grabbing Rukia by her collar, and dragging her away. You can't kill this thing now. Rukia shouted, you don't even have a demon arm. How are you going to hurt it? With this awesome sword of mine, Ichigo replied, calmly. Rukia sighed in frustration. That's the thing, she said, demons do not have souls, idiot. Your Zanpakuto won't be able to actually harm it severely. Ichigo looked at her, but he still held a bit of confidence. That until he saw the resting place of the plus they were seeking. Or, in this case, the former resting spot of the spirit. In what may be appropriately called a savage act, the former resting spot was smeared with blood, and scratch marks, deep in the ground. Okay, that was a bit unexpected. Ichigo said, shocked, well, this is going to be a little different. An attractive woman, with dark green hair, wearing a tight seressure around her ample bosom, and a dark red and gold hakama, walked into Urahara's shop, with a bright smile. You called? She asked. Urahara nodded. An attractive woman in my shop, he said, grinning, how that is a rare sight today. Cut the bullshit. You said. This was important. Fine, about Dr. Nev Bolesin. The demon wasn't very impressive. In fact, you could say that it was downright pathetic. It was just smaller than the average hollow, and it resembled a tick. The skin of the demon pulsated, as if it was a very painful tumor. It scuttled around, clumsily. And you said I couldn't kill this thing. Ichigo said. Rukia cupped her chin. Demons don't normally look like this.